Imagine this. You send a message and hours go by, nothing. So you wait a day, maybe two, still nothing. And then finally your phone buzzes, not with their reply, but with some random notification that just reminds you they're out there living their life without you. And what do? You start thinking, did I do something wrong? Should I try again? Maybe if I just stop. Here's the truth. Every second you spend chasing someone who ignores you, you're teaching them how little you value yourself. Read that again. You're saying my time, my energy, my worth, none of that matters as long as I can get your attention. That's the silent message you're sending. And let me tell you something, it is a dangerous message to send. Because once you start negotiating your value, you've already lost. Why do we do this? Why do we keep running after people who clearly don't want to be caught? It's not because they're special. It's not because they're better than you. It's because you've been conditioned to believe that their approval means something about who you are. You've tied your sense of worth to whether or not someone else validates you. And if that's you right now, I want you to stay with me because by the time we're done here, you'll never look at being ignored the same way again. We're going to dig deep into why you chase, why it's costing you more than you realize, and how to flip the entire script so that the next time someone ignores you, you don't even flinch. In fact, you'll thank them. Because the truth is, being ignored might just be the best thing that ever happened to you if you know how to respond. Ready? Let's go. Let me tell you something most people don't want to hear. When someone ignores you and you keep chasing them, you're not just losing them, you're losing yourself. Because every time you reach out again, every time you justify their silence, every time you tell yourself maybe they're busy, you're putting their value above your own. And the second you do that, you've traded your self-respect for a shot at their attention. That's not a fair trade. That's a losing deal every single time. Self-respect isn't a luxury. It's not something you work on when you have time. It's the foundation for everything else in your life, your relationships, your career, your confidence, your peace of mind. And when you let someone treat you like you don't matter, you're eroding that foundation brick by brick. Eventually, you wake up one day wondering why you feel so small, so powerless, so dependent on what other people think. And it started right there in that moment when you told yourself it was okay for someone to ignore you. Let's be honest. Ignoring is communication. People love to say, oh, maybe they didn't see it, please. It's 2025. Everyone sees everything. If they wanted to respond, they would. If they wanted to be there, they'd show up. Silence isn't an accident, it's a decision. And when someone decides not to acknowledge you, believe them the first time. Stop writing stories in your head that excuse their behavior. Stop turning yourself into a detective, trying to find clues to justify why they disappeared. They're not too busy. They're not confused. They're showing you where you rank on their list of priorities. And when someone does that, you have one job: protect your self-respect at all costs. You see, self-respect is a mirror. It reflects how you treat yourself and teaches the world how to treat you. If you keep chasing, you're saying, I don't mind being an option. I don't mind being second. I don't mind being invisible as long as I can still stand close to you. And what do? They believe you. They think, oh, I don't have to show up for this person. They'll always be there no matter what I do. Congratulations, you've just taught someone to devalue you. Now, let's flip this. Imagine you stop chasing. Imagine you send your message, and if they don't respond, you don't double text. You don't spiral into overthinking. You don't stalk their social media. You just move on with your life. What does that communicate? It says, I know my worth. I don't need you to validate me. I choose people who choose me back. That's power. That's confidence. That's the energy people can feel even when you're silent. And guess what happens? Suddenly, the people who ignored you start noticing. They start thinking, wait a second, where did they go? Why aren't they trying anymore? Because attention is a strange thing. People take it for granted when it's unlimited. But the second it disappears, they start chasing it. But here's the key. You're not pulling back to make them want you. You're pulling back because you value yourself more than you value their approval. Now, why is this so hard? Because we've been conditioned to believe that persistence equals value. Movies, books, society, they've all sold us this lie. If you really care, you never give up. You keep trying, you fight for them. That sounds romantic on screen, but in real life, it's toxic when it's one-sided. When you fight for someone who doesn't fight for you, you're not being loyal, you're being desperate. And desperation will cost you everything. Your dignity, your peace, your confidence, because the harder you chase, the further they run. It's human nature. People don't respect what comes too easy. They respect what has boundaries. And that brings me to the heart of this. Boundaries are the armor of self-respect. When you say, I will not chase someone who ignores me, that's a boundary. When you say, I only give energy to people who give it back, that's a boundary. Boundaries don't push people away. They filter out the ones who are never meant to stay. And if someone disappears because you stop chasing, let them. They were never yours to begin with. They were just using your attention to fill their ego, not your heart. That's the truth most people don't want to admit. So ask yourself this: if you didn't chase, if you just let go, what would happen? Would the world end? No. What would happen is you'd create space. Space for people who actually care. Space for opportunities you've been too distracted to see. Space for yourself to grow. Because here's the kicker: the more you chase others, the less you chase your own potential. You can't run in two directions at the same time. You're either running after people who ignore you or running toward the life you deserve. Which one do you want more? Every time you choose self-respect, you build an unshakable core inside you. You start walking differently, talking differently. People feel it when you walk into a room, because you're not carrying that heavy energy of desperation anymore. You're not begging for scraps of attention. You're radiating confidence that says, I know who I am. I know what I bring to the table. And if you don't see it, that's your loss, not mine. That is magnetic. That's when people stop ignoring you, not because you chased them, but because you stopped, because you moved on, because you elevated. And here's the truth you need to tattoo on your brain: attention is not love. Response is not respect. Someone answering your text doesn't mean they value you, and someone ignoring you doesn't diminish your worth. Your value is non-negotiable. It's set. It doesn't rise and fall based on someone else's interest. So stop acting like it does. Stop chasing people who make you feel like you're hard to love. You are not hard to love. You are hard to manipulate when you know your worth, and that's why self-respect will always be your superpower. Let's get real for a moment. Why do we do it? Why do smart, capable, amazing people find themselves obsessing over someone who doesn't even acknowledge them? Why do we hit send on that extra text when deep down we know it's not going to change anything? The answer isn't because you're weak. It's not because you're foolish. It's because you're human. And the human brain is wired for connection. It craves acceptance. It needs validation, like it needs air. That's the biology of it. But here's the problem. When you don't understand that wiring, it controls you instead of you controlling it. When someone ignores you, it triggers the same part of your brain that processes physical pain. Think about that. Rejection doesn't just hurt emotionally. It literally hurts like a burn or a bruise. That's why you can't stop thinking about it. That's why you feel this gnawing discomfort that makes you want to do anything to make it stop. So you chase, you text again, you call, you check their social media to see what they're doing. Not because you don't have pride, but because your brain is screaming, fix this, make it right, get that connection back. But here's where it gets even more dangerous: intermittent reinforcement. This is a psychological phenomenon where inconsistent rewards make us addicted. You've experienced this if you've ever played a slot machine or scrolled endlessly on social media waiting for a like. Sometimes you get the reward, sometimes you don't, and that unpredictability hooks you. When someone ignores you and then suddenly responds, even with something as small as hey, your brain lights up, dopamine floods in. And what happens? You chase that feeling again. You think, maybe if I just try harder, they'll respond again. You're not chasing the person, you're chasing the chemical hit. You've turned into a gambler playing emotional roulette, hoping this time the wheel lands on you. And here's the trap. The less they give you, the more you want it. Scarcity creates value in our minds. If something is rare, it must be important. So when someone pulls away, when they go silent, your brain interprets that as, this must be worth more. But that's a lie. Scarcity doesn't equal worth. It just means they're withholding, whether intentionally or because they simply don't care. And yet you start running harder, thinking, if I can just prove myself, if I can just be enough, they'll come back. That's the story you tell yourself. And it's a dangerous story because it keeps you locked in a cycle where you're giving everything and getting nothing. Now let's go even deeper. There's a reason this feels so personal. We all have an innate need to belong. From the moment we're born, our survival depends on connection. If you were ignored as a child, if you had to earn love or attention, you carry that pattern into adulthood. So when someone ignores you now, it doesn't just hurt in the present, it reopens an old wound. That's why the reaction feels so intense. That's why it feels like life or death in your mind, even though logically you know it's not. Your brain is screaming, don't let this happen again. Do whatever it takes. And if you don't recognize that, you start operating out of fear instead of strength. So what's the solution? Awareness. You have to see the pattern for what it is. A pattern, not proof that you're not good enough. When someone ignores you, it's not a reflection of your value. It's a reflection of their priorities, their choices, their character. But the minute you make it about you, what did I do wrong? What's wrong with me? You hand them the keys to your self-worth. And here's the truth. Nobody should have that kind of power over you. Nobody. You need to start asking yourself better questions. Instead of why don't they want me, ask why am I chasing someone who doesn't respect me? Why am I okay with this imbalance? Because here's the hard truth. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. If you tolerate silence, inconsistency, and disrespect, you will keep getting it. Not because you deserve it, but because you've shown that you'll accept it. And the longer you chase, the more you reinforce the dynamic that you are the pursuer and they are the prize. Let me tell you something, you are not the pursuer, you are the prize. But until you believe that, you'll keep running after people who don't even deserve to stand next to you. Here's the other piece most people don't see. Chasing destroys attraction. It kills respect. Why? Because when you overinvest in someone who underinvests in you, it creates an imbalance of power. And human nature resists imbalance. The more you give, the less they value it, because value is tied to effort. When you make it too easy for someone to have your time, your attention, your energy, they start to see it as cheap, even if it's priceless. That's not fair, but that's reality. People appreciate what they have to earn, and if someone doesn't want to earn you, why are you giving them everything for free? So what do you do with all this? You stop making excuses, you stop chasing that dopamine hit disguised as closure, you stop thinking, just one more message, just one more chance. Because the truth is, every time you do that, you're digging a deeper hole for your self-respect. You're rewiring your brain to believe that your worth is negotiable, that it depends on whether or not someone responds. And let me tell you, it doesn't. Your worth is fixed, it's inherent. It's not up for debate. So start acting like it. When you feel that urge to chase, I want you to pause and ask yourself, what am I really craving right now? 9 times out of 10, it's not them. It's validation. It's the feeling of being chosen. But here's the truth. The most powerful thing you can do for yourself is choose yourself when they don't. That's the ultimate power move. That's when you stop being controlled by biology, by old wounds, by fear, and you start leading your own life with strength. That's when you flip the script and turn the chase inward toward your goals, your dreams, your potential, because that's the only chase that's worth it. Every time someone rejects you, it feels personal, doesn't it? Like they looked at you, measured you, and said, you're not enough. That's the story your mind writes, and it plays on repeat like a broken record. But here's the truth most people miss. Rejection is not a verdict. It's a redirection. It's life closing one door, so you don't waste your time walking down the wrong hallway. The problem is, you're so fixated on that one door that you don't see the other 10 that just opened for you. Let's break it down. Rejection is data. That's all it is. Information telling you where not to put your energy. If someone ignores you, they're giving you a gift, clarity. They're saying, I'm not your person. I'm not your opportunity. I'm not where you should invest. But instead of seeing that as guidance, we fight it. We try to force the door back open. We start thinking, if I knock harder, if I explain myself, if I just wait, maybe it'll open again. And in that process, you're losing something far more valuable than their attention. You're losing time you could be using to find the people and opportunities that actually align with you. Here's something nobody tells you. Some of the best things in your life will happen because something else didn't work out. Think about it. That job you didn't get, it pushed you to apply somewhere better. That relationship that ended, it made space for someone who actually loves you the way you deserve. You didn't see it then, but looking back, you realize those failures were setups for something greater. That's what rejection really is, a setup for redirection. It's the universe saying, not here, not this, something else is waiting for you. But most people never experience that something else because they refuse to let go of what didn't choose them. They're too busy chasing a dead end. And that's the real tragedy, not the rejection itself, but what you missed because you couldn't walk away. You see, energy is finite. Every ounce you spend trying to change someone's mind is energy stolen from creating the life you actually want. And the irony, the more you chase, the smaller you become in your own eyes. You shrink. You compromise. You beg for scraps of attention when you were born to command a seat at the table, or better yet, build your own table. Let me give you a scenario. Imagine you're on a plane. The flight attendant comes on the speaker and says, ladies and gentlemen, this plane is not going to your destination. Please exit now. What would you do? Would you sit there and argue? Would you refuse to leave because you already picked this plane? Of course not. You'd get off and find the right one because your destination matters more than your pride. That's rejection in real life. It's the announcement that says, this is not where you're supposed to go. But instead of getting off, most people stay strapped in, waiting for a miracle, flying in circles over nowhere. Why? Because they don't want to face the discomfort of change. They'd rather cling to what's familiar, even if it's wrong for them, than face the unknown. And here's the kicker. Rejection is often protection. Sometimes you're being saved from things you can't see yet. That person who ignored you, maybe they would have drained your energy, broken your trust, wasted years of your life. That job you didn't get, maybe it would have kept you stuck, underpaid, undervalued. You think you lost something, but what you really lost was an illusion, an idea of how things were supposed to go. The truth, life knows better than you do. And when you start trusting that, you stop seeing rejection as an insult and start seeing it as a compass. The question is, will you trust the compass? Because when you don't, you end up forcing connections that were never meant to last. And anything you force, you have to keep forcing. That's why so many people feel exhausted in their relationships and careers, because they're holding doors open that should have stayed closed. And then they wonder why they're unhappy, why they feel stuck. It's because they ignored the signs. Rejection was the sign, and they didn't listen. Here's what I need you to understand. Your life doesn't shrink when someone walks away. It expands, because now you have space for better people, better opportunities, better experiences. But you can't fill that space if you keep cluttering it with what doesn't want to be there. Every time you chase someone who rejected you, you're closing your own doors. You're saying, I'd rather have this piece of what I thought I wanted than the whole of what I deserve. And that's not a trade you should ever make. So the next time you feel rejected, pause. Instead of spiraling into, why not me? Ask, what's next for me? Shift your perspective. Use that energy to move forward, not backward. Because here's the truth. You are not defined by who walks away. You are defined by what you do after they walk away. Do you crumble or do you rise? Do you waste your energy trying to reopen a door that's locked? Or do you turn and look for the door that's already wide open? That choice determines everything. I want you to remember this. Rejection is never the end. It's a bend. It's a curve in the road that leads you to something you didn't even know was waiting for you. But you'll never reach it if you keep staring in the rearview mirror. You have to look ahead. You have to trust that life isn't taking from you. It's clearing the way for something better. And when you believe that, rejection stops being something to fear and becomes something to appreciate. Because every no is one step closer to the yes that actually matters. So stop chasing what closed on you. Start running toward what's opening for you. Because what's meant for you will never need to be begged for. It will meet you halfway. It will choose you back. Until then, let rejection do its job. Redirect you to where you truly belong. Let me ask you a question. Why do we spend so much time trying to convince people who don't care, instead of giving that same energy to those who genuinely do? Think about it. How many times have you ignored the friends who check in on you because you were too busy obsessing over someone who left you on read? How many times have you overlooked the people who celebrate you because you're focused on the one person who barely notices you exist? That's not just unfair to them, it's unfair to you. Because every ounce of energy you pour into someone who doesn't value you is energy stolen from someone who would treat you like gold. You've got to understand this. Your attention is currency. Every second you give to someone, you're investing in them. The question is, what's your return? If you invest in people who ignore you, the return is zero, or worse, it's negative, because it costs you your peace, your confidence, your self-worth. But when you invest in people who value you, the return is exponential. They give back, they uplift you, they create an environment where you can thrive. That's where your focus needs to be, not on the ones who drain you, but on the ones who fill you. Here's the problem. As humans, we have this twisted instinct to chase what's running away from us. It's like we've been programmed to believe that if something is hard to get, it must be worth more. That's a lie. Just because someone makes you work for their attention doesn't mean they're valuable. It just means they're unavailable, or worse, uninterested. And yet we fall for the illusion of scarcity. We think, if they don't want me, I must make them want me. If they're pulling away, I must pull harder. Stop glorifying resistance. Stop making a game out of your self-worth. Because here's the truth. The people who matter, the ones who truly belong in your life, will never make you feel like you have to audition for a role you already deserve. They won't make you question your worth or your place in their life. They will show up. They will call you back. They will respond without making you beg. That's not boring. That's respect. That's consistency. And consistency is not a weakness. It's a sign of real connection. So why do we ignore those people? Why do we push aside the ones who value us? Because we're addicted to the chase. We think passion comes from uncertainty. We've been fed this narrative that love, friendship, and even business relationships are exciting only when they're unpredictable. But you know what's really exciting? Being at peace, knowing where you stand, building with people who actually want to build with you. That's where the real magic happens, when you stop wasting your energy, proving your worth, and start aligning with people who already see it. Let me give you a reality check. When you focus on people who value you, everything in your life changes. Your confidence grows because you're in environments that validate, not erode your sense of self. Your energy multiplies because you're not constantly drained from chasing approval. Your happiness increases because you stop living on an emotional roller coaster and start living in balance. But here's the catch. You can't do that if you're still clinging to the ones who don't care. You can't fill your hands with something new if they're still gripping what doesn't serve you. Sometimes the reason you feel stuck is because you're holding on to people who were never meant to stay. Ask yourself this: who are the people who actually show up for you? Who checks in not because they want something, but because they care? Who respects your time, your energy, your boundaries? Those are your people. Those are the ones you build with. And if you're thinking, I don't have people like that, then good. That's your cue to create that circle. Surround yourself with people who inspire you, who support you, who challenge you to grow. Stop hanging around people who make you feel small just because you're afraid of being alone. Being alone while respecting yourself is always better than being surrounded by people who make you compromise your worth. And here's another truth. When you start focusing on people who value you, you'll start valuing yourself more. Why? Because you mirror the energy around you. If you're constantly around people who treat you like an option, you start to believe you are one. But when you're around people who appreciate you, who celebrate your wins, who want to see you win, you start showing up differently. You walk taller, you speak louder, you start thinking, maybe I really am as great as I forgot I was. That's the power of alignment. It's not about how many people you know, it's about how many people truly see you. Now let me hit you with something uncomfortable. Sometimes the reason you don't focus on people who value you is because you don't value yourself enough. If you believe deep down that you're not worthy, you'll gravitate toward people who confirm that belief. That's why self-work matters. Because when you raise your standards for yourself, you automatically raise your standards for the people you allow in your life. You stop settling for crumbs when you know you deserve the whole table. So from today, I want you to make a decision. No more chasing people who ignore you. No more wasting time on people who can't even send you a text back. Your energy is too precious for that. Start pouring it into people who pour back. And if you don't have those people yet, then pour it into yourself. Build yourself so strong, so whole, that you become the kind of person who attracts high-value connections effortlessly. Because when you respect yourself, you stop tolerating disrespect. When you focus on those who value you, you create a life that feels like peace instead of chaos. Remember this, not everyone deserves access to you. Not everyone deserves your time, your energy, your loyalty. Those things are earned, so stop discounting yourself like you're on clearance. You're not. You're rare. And rare things don't chase. They get chosen. So start acting like it. Focus on those who value you, and watch how everything else in your life levels up. You have to stop waiting for someone to make room for you at their table. Stop standing in the corner hoping they'll notice you. Stop begging for scraps of attention like you're starving for it. You're not starving, you've just forgotten that you can build your own damn feast. And that's what elevating yourself is all about. It's about shifting the energy from please pick me to I pick me. Because when you do that, everything changes. Your confidence, your opportunities, even the way people treat you. Let me tell you something. The world doesn't reward begging. It rewards building. When you're constantly trying to squeeze into spaces where you're clearly not wanted, you're telling yourself a dangerous story that your worth is conditional, that it depends on someone else validating you. And when you believe that, you'll tolerate almost anything just to stay in that space. You'll dim your light so you don't intimidate. You'll agree with things you don't believe in just to fit. You'll contort yourself into shapes that were never meant for you. And the worst part, you'll call that love or loyalty or opportunity when really it's self-abandonment. So what does elevation look like? It starts with a mindset shift. Instead of thinking, how can I make them want me? Start thinking, how can I make myself undeniable? You stop chasing their attention and start chasing your growth. You invest in your skills. You invest in your health. You invest in your mind. You start becoming so strong, so sharp, so valuable that you're not even in the same league as the version of you that was begging for space. And let me tell you, when you operate at that level, the tables turn. The people who once ignored you, they'll start noticing. The opportunities you thought were out of reach, they'll start showing up. But here's the twist. You won't even care anymore because you'll be too busy building something bigger than what you once begged for. Elevation means owning your energy. It means understanding that your time, your attention, your presence, they're not free, they're premium. And premium things are rare, and rare things are not desperate. When you walk into a room with that energy, people feel it, they respect it. They either rise to meet you or they fall away. And you know what? That's exactly how it should be, because you don't need everyone to like you. You need the right ones to align with you. And the right ones don't need to be chased. They meet you halfway. Here's the hard truth. When you beg for space, you shrink. You lower your standards. You tolerate inconsistency. You rationalize disrespect. And every time you do that, You chip away at your confidence until you can't even recognize yourself. But when you elevate, you expand. You stop operating from lack and start operating from abundance. You start realizing that you're not asking for too much, you're just asking the wrong people. The right people won't make you feel like you're hard to love. They won't make you fight for crumbs of attention. They'll give freely because they value what you bring. Now let me break this down practically because I don't want this to just sound like motivational fluff. Elevating yourself means upgrading your habits. It means replacing gossip with growth. It means spending less time scrolling through feeds of people who ignore you and more time reading books, learning skills, building your body, mastering your craft. It means surrounding yourself with people who push you forward instead of holding you back. And if you don't have those people yet, it means being willing to stand alone until you do. Because the time you spend alone building yourself is never wasted. It's compounding interest for your future. And let's talk about results. The truth is, people are drawn to elevation. When you start glowing from within, when you move like someone who knows their worth, people can't ignore that. But here's the irony. You won't be doing it for them. You won't care about proving anything to anyone. You'll be doing it for you. And that shift, that's magnetic. Because confidence isn't about shouting, "Look at me." It's about silently saying, "I know who I am," whether you see it or not. That energy attracts opportunities, relationships, and respect like nothing else. Here's what you need to understand. Life will never reward you for staying small. It will never hand you your dreams while you're sitting in someone else's shadow, waiting to be chosen. You have to choose yourself first. You have to say, if there's no space for me here, I'll create a space so big, they'll wish they invited me when they had the chance. That's not arrogance. That's alignment. That's owning the fact that you're capable of more than begging for a seat at someone else's table. So stop asking, why don't they want me? And start asking, why do I want them? Why am I giving so much energy to places that don't give back? Because the second you start questioning that, you'll realize you've been living small out of fear. Fear of being alone, fear of starting over, fear of failing. But let me tell you something. Nothing is scarier than waking up 10 years from now and realizing you never lived because you were too busy chasing people who didn't care. You deserve more than that. You owe yourself more than that. So elevate. Build the body that makes you feel unstoppable. Learn the skills that make you indispensable. Surround yourself with people who clap when you win. And if you can't find those people yet, be your own cheerleader until they arrive. Because here's the ultimate truth. When you stop begging for space and start building your own, you become a force no one can ignore. And when that happens, you won't need a seat at anyone else's table. You'll own the whole damn room. Here's the truth you need to take with you today. You are not defined by who ignores you, who rejects you, or who walks away. You are defined by what you do with that truth. Every time someone shows you where you stand,